She said they were still nice, so after all those 200 years, they were still really nice apartments.
My other daughter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. You know, that's typical of those. I don't know if it was in Deepton, but there are places that are issued income.
Right.
There are other places.
But, we had it.
It's good with them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of those rare Cincinnati, just live on the west side. And we go over
Yeah.
Yes, every element gets spectators down.
our second house essentially.
Whoever's
Yeah.
playing it generally is what they're wanting to speak. And I'll get the sign in sheet here in just a minute.
Luckily, they were past that. So
Exactly.
my wife was the most touchdown.
I love Cincinnati. I mean, it really,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, so they're,
Real blood.
yeah. But anyway. Oh. So vacant.
I haven't been able to get the Wi-Fi to link up. I don't really feel like I need it. But I haven't been able to get the Wi-Fi to link up. I've been able to do it.
I got it linked up on that one, but that one has it memorized, and I don't have it memorized of what's capital, what's not.
Right.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
something.
I like 11.
But the,
Yeah. And
So
then
I'm running around and he had also.
some days it works and some days it doesn't.
Live.
Oh, wow.
Because I had staff ready.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Take a
second.
It came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
They'll do cheese a day. Me too.
Have it up on the wall.
I'm a pastor there. I eat there.
Okay. See, now she doesn't.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You can see.
Oh,
My last one. Oh, me too. Yeah.
Did you receive all the vehicles?
Oh, really? That's like a stick. Actually, yeah.
Making that for this?
For my one daughter who's vegetarian.
Yeah, we were talking about vegetables, that's the one that I.
Can't be affected by this education, state education.
You know, it is terrible. I've not had a chance to talk about it. I switched roles and it's been a pretty massive undertaking and one of my former colleagues was messaging me yesterday, like, what's going on? What's all the,
Yeah.
shake up about? Like, I know that, yeah, I mean, it would drastically
Well,
impact.
the Senate's passed.
The Senate's passed, I
Is it
don't
to
know.
the House now,
I think,
or is it going to the governor?
no, the House hasn't done it.
House hasn't
yet,
passed
So
yet.
we've got to get committees to do.
If that pretty seriously guts the state board of education. doesn't it?
Yeah.
At least when I've read the paper.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, the board does not really have authority, and so it's, OD is kind of its own entity. if you will. So I think they think there's an opportunity to have more influence through that, but I don't know, yeah, I mean, it's all very risky.
Kind of depends on who does.
Right, exactly, that is.
How they use their authority.
Were you in the Senate when they kind of gutted the board of regents and transferred it to the governor's office?
Yeah.
Yeah, reminds me a little bit of that.
And I think.
Education is very curriculum, so this is not. I would opt for all elected representation rather than appointed representation on the board, and just have it match the Senate
And
districts. And
Makes
that would
sense.
be, and give them the authority to actually reign over OT, so there's
Right.
more of a clarification for them, exactly, values or desires, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty drastic, but.
Well, that did come about, wasn't that under, wasn't it? That they went to the blended system.
I think it's, I wanted to say for one, but she may be right though.
It could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder- Where the, as part of the compromise, that you had, what, 8 or 9 appointed members, 11 that were elected kind of thing.
I mean, their only real authority currently is to,
Hire a state board to
exactly,
superintendent.
and they haven't.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, they had that fiasco with the superintendent just a matter of a few months ago too.
Yeah, they hired.
How that got
somebody
hammered
in
down,
charge.
somebody not saying, hey, wait a minute, it doesn't pass the smell test, let alone the legal test.
Yeah, dad.
And I know that
regular
family very, very
construction.
well.
Yeah,
And I-
it's like whether they fit or not, this is not
Yeah.
the way the process should work.
Exactly.
I just-
Right.
Husband was one of the last two board of regents before they disbanded.
And so that's why.
Thought that was a shame that they,
Oh, I did too.
I did too.
Well, the way they did it, I mean, they would have had to continue to meet, never had a conference in the last 2
Right.
years.
So let's
Well,
work
the
back.
whole appointment process.
We are now calling the December 8th meeting of the Ohio Elections Commission to order. Mr. Executive Director, would you call the roll, please?
So Mr. Crates. Here. Mr. Lyle. Here. Ms. Hagan.
Present.
Ms. Tavares. Mr. Knight.
Here.
Vice Chair Hoffman.
Present.
Chair Benny.
Present.
All members are present, Mr. Chair.
The first order of business would be the approval of the regular minutes of the November 3rd meeting.
I think those have all been circulated to everybody for their review.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion that's been duly second. Any further discussion on the motion or corrections or comments? Right, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried by a vote of 7-2.
Sorry, I had a brain hurt. I think the wrong number.
Oh, okay. All right.
But 6.
All
I've
right,
corrected it. I've corrected it. I've corrected it.
All right, in the preliminary review section, the first case we're going to be addressing will be the Derrick versus Andrews case. Case number 2022D-022. Mr. Executive Director.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a complaint that alleges that certain materials that the respondent circulated did not include a proper disclaimer on them. And the explanation that I've got both the complaint and the response have been provided to you. In sum, though, the candidate explained that all materials they originally produced, signs, print mailers, trying to think of what else he had. He had something else as well. They all had proper disclaimers on them, but that he felt an obligation to order more, ordered an additional set of, I think he said 100, and that set came back with no disclaimers. And his statement to me was, well, I put stickers on them to reflect the proper disclaimer, but yet if you look at the complaint, you know, whether they were removed by someone, fell off or whatever, there were some materials out there that did not have a disclaimer on them. And so his statement essentially was that, you know, he had done his best efforts to try and put disclaimers on materials. My recommendation, based on the complaint and the response, and I also talked to the respondent on the telephone, is to find a violation, but for good cause, not impose a fine, or refer the matter for prosecution. I'm glad to answer any other questions that the commission may have.
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, a question of the executive director, if you don't mind. Do we know, did he have those stickers applied before he distributed the signs or put them anywhere that they would be used for public consumption?
That's what I inferred from his statements, yes, but he said he put stickers on them. That was the essence of his statement though, so.
If that's true, was there a violation?
If he had done that all and they had been circulated properly, I guess the answer would be no, correct. But based, you know, again, based on what I saw in the complaint that showed, I think there were 3 different pictures of signs that didn't have disclaimers on them. And there was, you know, I mean, I don't know if you can't really always tell whether there was a sticker that was pulled. Sometimes you can, but I don't recall seeing that when I looked at those materials.
Mr. Chairman, one follow-up.
Yes, please.
Mr. Executive Director, do we know whether They ordered them from the same printer?
No, he did say that and I don't know where he ordered them from initially, but he did say that his phrasing to me, and I think it might have been in the response, but I know in his conversation with me, he used a quote, local company
Okay.
to produce an additional set. So wherever he got the first ones from, the second set was from a different location based on his statements to me.
Yeah, because I would just venture to say that the template for the signage was already produced. And so if you do a second run, they would have the disclaimer on if it was on the first time.
Correct. And I, again, this is an inference for me based on conversation was, I guess it took, and you've been down that path, I'm sure, takes so long to get them if you go through the one company that may be out of state or whatever. He did say it was a local company that he went to and they didn't include them.
Commissioner Coffin.
No, I just, in looking at the picture, I could see if this is one of the signs, which it seems to me that had a sticker applied, I could see where it would come off. Is I guess my takeaway from that. Doesn't look like it's without. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, as you look at the one here, it looks like it's taped to a window. Looks like it was put on the inside of the window and taped up to the window. It'd be hard to remove one from there.
But these look like, to me, they look like they could easily just come off, just brush me against something. If that's, I don't know.
Yeah, certainly possible.
No, because that is they were going away.
That's all I have.
No in-person demonstration.
No.
I'd like to see this.
Okay, if there's not any further discussion, comment, is there a, motion? Or do you have any, hold on, do you have any other comments?
No, I think, I appreciate everybody's comments. I think they're realistic comments based on the circumstances that have been presented to us. I don't have any more to present. I'm comfortable with my recommendation, but as I always said, if the commission wants to go in a different way and approach the case differently, I certainly understand and respect that. I'm merely a recommender.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion, and that's been duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, if not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carried by a vote of 7-2.
So back to Chris, please, because otherwise I have to.
Okay, the next matter, Robley versus Marcos,
Morris.
Maras, case number 2022 G023. It has already been agreed with counsel for the respondent that the matter will be continued to the commission's next meeting on January,
Not the next meeting,
Oh,
excuse me, the January 5th
the
meeting.
January 5th meeting. That's wishful thinking. The January 5th meeting, 2023.
What I will say is, and you, I erased it on the updated agenda, but you saw it previously, when I circulated this to you all. The complainant's assertion is that there were multiple instances where the respondent in a filed campaign finance report did not list the employer for contributions over $100 as they're required to do. As when I looked last week and what the U.S. Postal site reflected was that the matter was the complainant's mailing was certified mail was being returned to us, but we did have service on the on the responding, or on the treasurer and the campaign committee. In the intervening period between when I looked at that, probably Monday or Tuesday, we did get the green card back that showed that. But the council for the respondent treasurer indicated that they kind of gotten lost in the shuffle of things during the season. And he asked for additional time to file a response as it related to that. He did, there was another allegation concerning corporate contributions that he seemed to express a certain amount of concern about in the response to. So I just want to have you granted their request to have him active move to January 5th meeting, so the board address it then.
Thank you. Any other questions for the executive director? And I have the authority to just continue.
You can certainly do so.
Okay. Okay, moving to the next section would be the move as scheduled hearing as of this point. Mr. Executive Director, any of you have some comments to make to the commission? And others here? Why don't you go ahead and make those?
As you are all aware, I've been working with counsel for Mr. Blystone in an attempt to reach an agreed upon resolution of this case. The commission is certainly the decider on whether there are violations and what's going on. I identify that as moving forward, but it's not complete at this point. And so my recommendation would be to continue this matter to a date uncertain, only because if we can't reach any kind of agreed upon resolution that's acceptable to, I'm obviously most concerned about, but it's acceptable to the commission, then we'll have a full hearing. But at this point, my recommendation would just be to continue all the matters, to allow for additional negotiation for a settlement and to engage in a full hearing at a later date. I'm glad to answer any other questions you may have.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. Are we giving the parties a date certain to either resolve, come to a settlement or not, so then we can plan on a hearing in the future?
I have not specifically stated it that way. In response to your question, I haven't specifically stated it that way, no. In conversations, I've talked about certain timeframes, yes, but not in that context. Mainly because I don't want to see this thing, okay, yeah, we've reached an agreement, but the real settlement doesn't come for a year or something like that. That's certainly not something I'm anticipating. And like I indicated, I have laid out certain timeframes in my conversations, but not in terms of do this or it's done or what.
Any other comments at this time?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate the efforts that are being made to enter into a negotiated agreement settlement in this case. After taking a look at all the information that's been provided to us by the executive director, I know I come down on the side of just setting this thing down for a full hearing. There's been some very substantial and significant issues that have been raised in the complaint that's been filed in this case. If those allegations are true, and that's the operative word, they're allegations at this point in time that haven't been proven. If they are, there could be very significant penalties up to and including referral for prosecution. I believe in my time on this commission that we've always been very good about making sure that we collected all the facts before we made a determination, before we made a decision. And I think it's absolutely essential in this case, given what information we've already been provided by the executive director, by way of deposition and otherwise, that we engage in a full hearing, make sure that we collect all the facts in this case before we render a decision. This case has a lot of different facts, a lot of twists and turns to it, just based on the limited information we've been provided. And so while I appreciate the efforts that are being made by the executive director, I wholeheartedly believe that this matter needs to be set down so that the petitioners have an opportunity to prove the allegations they've included in their complaint. And equally as important, the defense has the opportunity to go ahead and respond to those and meet them and defend against them if possible before we go ahead and then enter into a decision on how we're going to proceed. So my recommendation is not a motion, but my recommendation at this point in time is that we set this matter down for a hearing, a full hearing, and we do it sooner rather than later. And that's predicated upon the fact that we have 2 commission members that are going to be rolling off in the end of January, or excuse me, end of February, or possibly even sooner, but given the historic way these points have been handled, usually we'll be on until the end of February. I would hope that Mr. Beatty and myself, who will be rolling off, would have an opportunity to participate because we've seen part of the case already. So I would recommend we set it down sooner rather than later to be accomplished. I understand I'm only one person. I appreciate the understanding of entering into negotiations for a resolution, but I think some cases just need to be set down for hearing so that we have all the facts. And I truly believe that based upon my time on the commission here, this is one of those cases. So just my thoughts, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Just so I understand, so when you say hearing in lieu, not in lieu, hearing should be made prior to making a decision. And are you saying that the decision that you're speaking of would be the decision to approve a settlement, some type of settlement or a decision? I mean, obviously not the decision to continue, but.
I apologize for any confusion, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
I feel very strongly that we should set this down for a full hearing period
I got that part.
as quickly as possible.
Right. And so you mean set it for a hearing, but if a settlement was reached, that could be considered, or are you saying that that a settlement should not be considered, that given the facts and circumstances of this situation, the allegations, the gravity, the precedent, et cetera, that a full hearing and the petitioners get the opportunity to be heard should be done, and that a settlement not be accepted? Is that what you were saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying, is that we should not engage in any further discussion as to negotiation. We should set this matter down for hearing, have a full-blown hearing on it, bring out all the facts so that this commission is fully informed as to what transpired, and then allow the commission, based upon all the facts, to make a determination as to what the final resolution is going to be.
Okay, I'd like to hear some comments from other commissioners in this regard. Then I would like to hear from the executive director as to past cases and precedents in this situation. Any other commissioners want to comment regarding the comments made, questions, or issue raised by Mr.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. I have a question, but it would involve disclosing some of the high-level settlement terms. So I don't know if that's appropriate.
Well, what I will say is I have had discussions with Mr. Brown concerning certain elements of a resolution, yes, but nothing has been put to paper yet. In terms of, okay, this is the document that we want, Mr. Blystone to agree to, or the commission to agree to. So that hasn't been done, but I have talked about an outline of settlement statements, let's put it that way.
Well, I guess my question then is, can I refer to that high-level framework a bit?
Well, I would say at this point, if we're addressing what Mr. Kreitz is saying, I don't think it's the nature of what's been proposed, the particular details. I feel that it's more of, the allegations set forth in the complaint, as well as and I see the gentleman standing here, as well as the petitioner's desire to, move forward. I mean, this is the way that our system is set up. It's not, prosecutor and defendant. It's almost like three parties to a certain degree, with, us being somewhat of a partial litigant, but also somewhat of the trier of facts as well. And so it's unique in that situation. And so I don't think that when we're dealing with Mr. Kreitz's comment, suggestion, I guess, would be moving towards a motion. I don't think that the particulars of what's been proposed, discussed with the other party is necessarily germane to whether we would choose to move forward or not in that particular instance.
Well, I guess then my comment would be, and if I end up overstepping, I'll apologize in the beginning and the back. As I understand the direction of the negotiations, they would include mainly and potentially everything short of a potential criminal prosecution. And as I understand it, 80%ish, that would be the only thing other than some numbers and amounts or whatnot that might be hyped, unless I'm misunderstanding where the negotiations are headed. Would that be fair?
It's not unreasonable.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I would just agree in a concerted fashion with Commissioner Kreitz that it is our responsibility here to see the fullest degree of the case. Not knowing whether there is grounds for any type of or level of prosecution, I think we have a diligence, an authority and expectation that we would have a full hearing on a matter that is this extensive, regardless of what bears out. And I have full appreciation and respect for the executive director's efforts to find a resolution. I think we all, and I'm sure every party, wants a resolution and efficiency in the matter. But given the nature of the case and the extensiveness of the case, I think that we have responsibility as commissioners to hear the full case.
And then related to that, and, I know I've been on this commission 5 years, but I want to ask this question for Ed, because I think it's important here. So in the event of a settlement, would a prosecutor's office be precluded from bringing an action against the party?
I guess the answer to that would be no, because the way the statute reads is essentially the commission, for a trite phrase, the commission gets the first bite of the apple of what we decide here. And what the statute says is that no prosecution shall commence until the commission completes its deliberations. And so, for argument's sake, and I'm not saying that that's the way we head out, but were we to have reached an agreement and everybody, signs off on it, at that point, we would have concluded our deliberations. And then if a prosecutor wanted to pick up and go from there, presumably they could do so. That has never been done. It's never been done in the history of the commission, where, once the commission has finalized its determinations and then a prosecutor picked up a case, one of them, that has never occurred. But, in theory, could it happen? Yes.
Okay. And then the part two related matter is, you know, if we entered a settlement, would that be considered an order that the petitioners could appeal to the Court of Common Pleas?
I don't believe so,
Or-
no.
You don't think so?
No. Historically, and that's been held in a number of cases in which, after the commission has made a determination in a case, don't ask me to specifically cite them, but complainants have attempted to go to the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas and appeal the commission's decision, and those appeals have generally not been accepted by the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas. Because generally speaking, because they're presumably under both 119 scenario and also what the cases have essentially held is in order for there to be a basis for an appeal, there has to be a taking of some sort from a party. And if the commission makes a determination against a respondent, it imposes, and even says, because one of them was a good cause case, and just says that there's good cause not to impose a fine, the mere fact of a violation has been sufficient to show that there is a taking of something from the respondent, but the complainant has had no taking against them. They have brought allegations to the commission, but even in a scenario where the commission has dismissed a complaint, there has been nothing taken from a complainant to give them a basis to appeal a commission decision. And that's been pretty consistently held up when appeals have been attempted after the commission has dismissed a case. And I've worked with the Attorney General's office on those kind of cases over the years and have strongly fought those circumstances for those primary reasons. And again, pretty much every time the commission's been involved, I can't think of a time we've been involved.
Further comments?
I also agree with the time frame because you may have one less member come March if I'm delivering a baby.
Yeah. Which you will.
Well, that's
She refuses to say it.
I guess the only comment, Mr. Chairman, that I would make is I do have some concerns that several members of the commission will be rolling off. And if we continue to allow this to drag on, you know, it's not fair to the complainant, to the defendant, so to speak, and to the commission.
But what is your comment and feeling on that we move forward with a hearing, irrespective of what the date is? Are you feeling that we should move forward with it, go to hearing, no acceptance of any settlement or anything like that?
I think I'm leaning towards a hearing.
Okay. Looking at you.
No, I understand. I would actually like to hear what this gentleman has to say, because I think he's part and parcel of this case, right? So, I mean, usually when you get a settlement, you get everybody's on board. I don't know if that's the case or not the case, so.
Well,
But is that fair? I mean,
well, I will tell you, I respect that the gentleman has traveled here today.
and I don't know who he
However-
is. I just know he's up for the one.
I
Right.
Right. I respect that the gentleman has traveled here today. However, I feel a little uncomfortable allowing him to address the commission, given that other parties did not come today under the understanding that this was going to be continued, or what happened. I mean, would that be a fair description?
That's fair, at least, yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that would preclude us, but specifically preclude us, but I think there's an equity element, I think that correct.
All right. Well, I didn't know that.
No.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
And we were never informed that this hearing would be continued. We were informed that the hearing would take place in some form. And I'm here, my client is here under subpoena, even though she's a party. Mr. Blystone is not here. He's never appeared before this commission. My client has asked me specifically to come today and make arguments on her behalf, primarily on the process issues that's gone on around this complaint. I would be in support of having a full hearing.
In summary. Any other comments?
I mean, I guess my comment would be, with all due respect to my colleagues, I mean, I would be in favor of a dual track that sets a here's a date in the very near term and lets negotiations continue. And I guess, based on what I know, I don't see a reason for negotiations to stop, right? Perhaps a settlement can be reached that's amenable and, you know, it's far enough down the track that, I mean, the only reason to stop it would be is if as a commission, we all, well, not all, the majority says, doesn't matter what the settlement is, we would not accept it up here in hearing. I'm certainly not in that place. I would be an advocate of a dual track, set a very near term hearing date to cover all the things we talked about, but continue the negotiations and see if we can come to a resolution in advance that's amenable
Minimal.
to us as a commission.
Okay, well, you know, that's what we were certainly proceeding towards, but I think the, you know, the issue is that the complainants, petitioners, were not part of that settlement. Now, that could change, maybe something would be made acceptable or whatever, and I think we cross that bridge when we come to it. See what I'm saying? It'd be a different circumstance than we are in now, because at this point, let's say hypothetically that we had something already in place. Gentleman here today, his client, the petitioner, that is not something that they, you know, were a part of or agreed to.
So, and my understanding, and obviously the executive director, is at the end of the day, it's the commission's decision, and
Yes,
the
that's true.
petitioners did not have to agree to it. So,
That's true.
not that I am advocating they should not be involved or have input, I advocate that they absolutely should, but it's not a requirement.
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say one more thing in connection with this, and is that obviously this is a significant case. One only has to take a look at the facts and the allegations to know that it's a significant case. I think this commission owes a responsibility, you know, to the public that it serves to ensure in all cases, but particularly cases like this, that we have all the facts before we enter into any kind of resolution of the matter. And so that's where I come. I mean, obviously I come from the litigation mode in the private practice. We do this all the time. This is a different situation right now as far as I'm concerned. And I think that the commission, in order to make a fully informed decision, is going to have to engage in a full hearing of this matter. It's just my own personal belief, but I think that's going to be necessary. I think that's we owe to the public.
All right, Mr. Executive Director.
I appreciate that. I just, the reason why I started the process in which I did is I felt like, primarily with, honestly, the Secretary of State's complaint that reflected a real outline of all of the problems, for want of a better term, in the Blystone campaign filings. In that process. And then with statement admissions that have been made through the process already by Mr. Blystone's counsel, statements that, you know, I've circulated to you the depositions that were provided in another matter, but are now part of the record here. The admissions that Mr. Blystone made there in those proceedings as part of that deposition. I just felt like we had a substantial amount of evidence. I understand and respect what Mr. Price is saying. I don't necessarily disagree. I don't really disagree with that. I never disagree with my commission members. But I just felt like there was a sufficient showing in all of that in order to proceed forward on this attack and try to get a resolution. Rather than go through what will be, I believe, an extended hearing that may not really get us any additional facts that we already have. It could, I'm not gonna say it wouldn't, but it could. So that's why I decided to start down this track. And it is somewhat out of the ordinary for me to participate in this, although over the years, I have worked with parties on coming to cases with resolutions to the commission in the past. And so I took a little bit more of a direct input in this case than I have in others. But again, if it brings to me at least, if it brings a reasonable resolution to a case that the commission can accept, and I'm certainly don't want to bring something to you guys that you wouldn't accept. I thought it was worthwhile. But certainly, if it is the commission's belief, as expressed by Mr. Kreitz, Ms. Hagan, and certainly Ms. Tavares, that you want to see this thing go to a full hearing, I'm not going to, do anything different than what you would want me to do in order to try to get this thing moved forward. So, I understand and respect what you're all saying. I can have this thing set as relatively quickly as possible, and we can start down that path.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes,
I do want to say that I respect the executive director in that I think that the intention was in the right realm of what we were doing, what we do as a commission to make sure that since we can't have compliance on those issues that Mr. Blystone has admitted to doing, that he would have to pay the piper, so to speak, and that there would be repercussions to what he did. So I respect what Mr. Richter did to try to get it to a point where everybody would be amenable. I also understand if someone is not amenable to that for whatever reason, and they feel like their voice needs to be heard, I respect that as well. So I just need to point out that I think that Mr. Richter was really trying to make sure that everything was done in the proper manner. And if that's not acceptable to everybody, then I definitely think that, to Mr. Kreitz's point, that, a full hearing may bring out things that we don't know. So, but I do appreciate all the effort that Mr. Richter put into trying to resolve the issue in a way that was acceptable to everybody, including the parties, and so that's my opinion on it. So for what it's worth.
oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Pauls, you can take a seat right now.
Am I not being allowed to address the commission?
We have heard, the short comments that you made. I think we understand your position on this.
Well,
And again,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
yes, we understand your position on this. You hear what we're gonna make a motion and vote on. I think we've heard your position. And again, I don't want us to get into a situation where there's more out there, more things are presented and things like that may not be necessary for the commission, or that may prejudice other parties who are not here and would not have a chance to bud or say or make a comment or anything like that. So I would just, ask that you have a, go ahead and have a seat.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I would like to be heard on this matter. I have cut down my comments significantly to just on the process issues. I have been an attorney since 2003. I have negotiated lots of settlements. This is the first case I've ever been involved with, including cases negotiated with the commission, where all parties were not involved in any way whatsoever. We have not been part of the negotiations. We haven't been part of the conversations. Neither has the Secretary of State. Neither has attorney for Mrs. Capella. To me, that's a fundamental unfairness.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, again, you were here today, you heard us acknowledge, all of that. And I can respect that you want to put your opinion on the record, but I would ask that you go ahead and sit down right now. We also understand that you feel this should be a full hearing. So, and I think that, okay, so, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would move that the executive director set this matter down for a full evidentiary hearing at his soonest.
Second.
I'd like to amend that motion, or add to that motion. I'd like to have you look at the calendar right now, set the date.
I'd say January 5th,
That's fine.
because that should give 2 weeks, 2 weeks to get to the 22nd, which is the next commission
It's
meeting,
on January 7th.
is the 5th.
Fifth.
Because then we have a subsequent meeting in January. And
That's fine.
potentially, and we could always try and fit in other days as it might become necessary.
With permission of my second, Mr. Chair, I would go ahead and amend my motion to ask that the matter be set down for a full evidentiary hearing on January 5th.
Mr. Chairman, second the motion.
There's been a motion that's been made and duly seconded. Any further discussion on this motion? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by 76.
7 up, I've put properly 7 on my notes too.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I approach you, give her a call.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I don't know.
Did you want to put your name, at least that you were here?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna say your name, I'm just kidding.
All right, Mr. Executive Director, is there other business?
The other business is the next meeting of the commission is December 22nd, 2022. That will be about the one meeting. We've got campaign finance related cases on there. I think one preliminary review for a disclaimer case. So about the norm meeting. So you'll be able to get off to whatever anniversary. Isn't it anniversary?
10 years.
There you go. Cool.
I remember.
And then, again, I would, as we're talking about hearings on this, I guess I would just say to commission members, I'm not trying to be negative in any way, but I don't see this getting resolved in one commission hearing. Probably. I mean, I wish, but I don't know if that would be the case. And so be prepared to be flexible if you have additional dates. I mean, I know I got dates from certain people as I was setting the schedule for next year that said, I can't do this, can't do that. We may need to look at adding additional dates in an effort to sort of get this involved.
I mean, would, while we're planning for something like that, I mean, would people feel, I don't know, put people on the spot right now, but would people feel comfortable just going back-to-back days?
And that's appropriate.
I mean, it gives us a lot of leeway and
We have,
If the goal is to, properly hear the case and all that, I mean, it makes more sense to me to do it back to it while the information's fresh and we're running through it as opposed to breaking it up into a week later. I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's do it.
Saves everyone's time.
We'll block off the 5th and the 6th that everybody gets.
Yeah. And thank you all for all your various input as we went down this path. I appreciate that.
Okay, any issues with that, fifth, sixth, for anybody? Looking
I'm
at
not
calendars,
absolutely sure, but, because I don't keep my calendar.
you got people.
A person,
You guys said you got people.
a person.
You said I got people.
I just thought, get that going for I'm that pupil of many people.
Okay, is there any other, commission business at this time?
Mr. Chair, well, one thing, I just happened to think about it, just mentioned it to the vice chair. Several years ago, then I think the commission went like 3, 4, 5 years without evaluating Mr. Richter. And we decided we were going to at least do a look-see every year. And I believe it's been over a year now since we've done the evaluation. I realize we're coming to the year and the end of our tenure, but I would suggest if there's any way that we can squeeze that in, that we owe that to Mr. Richter to evaluate. That's one of the most important duties is to evaluate our people and take care of them.
That could go on the 22nd.
I'm sorry.
That could go on the 22nd meeting. Because generally, over the last few years, we've done it in December.
That's fine. I just think we need to have it and use that as a basis for salary for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification because I really don't know what you're talking about when you say evaluation.
This is not a race for you.
No.
I just kidding.
Very good. No, I didn't think it would be. And I mean, what are we specifically talking about when we're saying we're going to evaluate the executive director? This is for the new folks, so.
Well, basically what we've done, we've gone into executive session under Ohio Revised Code section 121.22,
Okay.
which allows us to have frank conversations relative to the employment of Mr. Richter, kind of give him pluses and minuses and, things of that nature. Then we would come out of the executive session because you can't make a decision in executive session. You come out of executive session and then we would have discussion about whether we had a recommendation with respect to salary.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that's kind of how we've done it in the past. And as a commission, quite frankly, we were pretty bad about that. I think we went, Phil, how many years? 3, 4?
It was a number of years.
You didn't, no, you didn't complain, but how many years
It
was
was
it?
a number of years.
Over 5?
Yes,
Yeah, it was over 5.
yes.
And that's intolerable.
Yes.
We have to look out for the people that work for us and with us. And so we decided 2 or 3 years ago, we're going to put it on every year. We're going to do a look-see. And so I wanted to make sure that we, with the press of time and everything else that is speaking. I'm sorry.
That include all employees or just exclusively the director?
I think to the director, because Phil, I think you do Chris,
I
right?
have a responsibility, yes.
Yeah.
Do we have criteria that's set that we evaluate against or
Just say
NGOs
it's
or?
perfect.
Well, obviously, but I mean, it's.
Did you get that for the record?
He is perfect.
What I have done in the past, and I mean, there really isn't a set of criteria per se. What I've done in the past is just kind of provide to everybody an outline on, let's say, the past year.
Okay.
And I will do that in the interview period. To give you that at least.
To Bernie's point, though, he's right. We ought to have.
We should establish criterion, and annual goals and expectations, and then end of the
I
year
agree.
evaluate against it.
I agree.
Perhaps it's something we discuss at the executive session going forward.
I think we did, I think with Phil, after we were done, we did set some goals or some, didn't we?
I have to look back.
Apparently we need to set. Yeah.
That's how we went 5 years without it. Yeah.
No, I get it.
That's intolerable. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time.
That would be added. for my-
Okay, so we're gonna do the 22nd.
And Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to remind everyone, the only one that we are really responsible for is Mr. Richter. Mr. Richter is responsible for 15 members.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. 7-0.
Yeah.
Where are we meeting at 11:30?
Pardon me?
We're meeting somewhere at 11:30, or is it at noon?
No, hopefully it's, the food is supposed to arrive at 11:30. So
Here or elsewhere?
It comes
it
down
comes to this floor,
stairs.
but yeah,
Yeah.
right.
But I guess there's on the 19th floor, there is kind of a community area, break room, et cetera, that is, it's not that well populated.
So leave that.
Oh, so we're just-
There's the Ohio Liquor Commission meeting right there. with a lot of
That's
people
true,
there.
that's a good
They,
point.
it's for them to start looking at.
Well, we also can, go out in that area and there's enough space to close the door.
Or you should get a liquor commission out there. That would be kind
I just don't know where.
That would be why.
Listen, I didn't know what the weather.
I guess based on
there
what
was
you told me.
concerns about this in the past, about weather and cold and such like.
It was council for that.
Oh, I think it's
Yeah.
very
Traveling, well,